What up, what up, what up? Geometry. This is equations of special segments. And we're pretty much going to run through three today. We have perpendicular bisectors, medians, and altitudes. Three of our favorite segments. Now, the first one is perpendicular bisectors. It says, find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of AC in PSF. Remember, point slope form from yesterday. And if A is 2 comma negative 5 and C is 6 comma 7. So we have this XY axis just to kind of give us a sense of where everything's located. So A would be down here, about 2, negative 5. And C would be 6, 7, so about up here. Again, it's more important we know what to do with it, but it's nice to have a frame of reference. And that's not a nice straight line. Neither is that, but we'll go with it. Alright, so find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Now, the perpendicular bisector has two key points. It's perpendicular and it's a bisector, so it cuts in half. Alright, so we got to take those two into consideration. So first, let's talk about bisector. So if we're going to bisect this line, we want to find the exact middle. Well, how do you find the middle in the coordinate plane? Is midpoint. Alright, so our first step is to find the midpoint. So we're going to find the midpoint of A and C. The midpoint of A and C. So let's focus on our x-coordinate. Remember, to find our x's, we average our x's. So we have 2 plus 6 over 2, which gives me 4. And then average my y's, which is 7 plus negative 5 over 2, which is 1. So my midpoint is 4, 1. So my midpoint would be exactly in the middle there, making these two pieces congruent. But I want to highlight this because we're going to come back to it. That's a very important point later on. Okay, so now the next thing we want to talk about is the perpendicular part. And the perpendicular means you make a 90-degree angle, and we know how perpendicular slopes are related. So to write in point slope form, we need a point and a slope. We already have my point. Now we have to go find my slope. So we're going to find the slope of AC. So we have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which gives me positive 12 over 4, which is 3. Some of you like to say 3 over 1. Now, if we're perpendicular to 3, the slope, my perpendicular slope, is going to be negative 1 over 3. Remember, it's the opposite reciprocal. So we flip the fraction and change the sign. Now, with my newfound point and my newfound slope, I'm going to write the equation of a line in point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And there's my equation. So if I were to graph this equation, it would make a 90 degrees and cut this exactly in half. Alright, so we found the equation of that line. Again, first step, find the midpoint, find the slope. With your new point and your new slope, write a new equation. Alright, so that's perpendicular bisector. Now on to medians. Now, if you remember, a median cuts in half. That's all it does, is it cuts a segment in half in a triangle. So triangle ZAH has endpoints Z, A, and H. So let's draw a quick sketch of this. So Z would be 6, 10, so it would be about all the way up here. A is negative 1, 2, so it would be over here. And H is 9, 4, so it would be about up here. And that would be my triangle. Now, we want to find, and it's very careful how you name it, ZC is a median of the triangle. So ZC, well, we know it comes from point Z, from vertex Z, C, and it cuts this in half, and we're going to call this point C. Alright, sketch the triangle, which we did, and write the equation of ZC in point slope form. So again, to write the equation of ZC, I need a point and a slope. Now, we know Z, but we're not going to be able to find the slope of this without this other point. But we could find this point because it's the midpoint of AH. So our first step is going to be to find the midpoint of A and H. So we're looking at these two coordinates here. Oh, there's the belt. So the x is negative 1 plus 9 over 2, which gives me 4. My y-coordinate is 2 plus 4 over 2, which gives me 3. Alright, so I get 4, 3 as my midpoint. Now that's important. It's going to be treated a little differently than perpendicular bisector, but it's important because now we know 2 points on my red line, on my median line, which is what we're looking for. So we have a point, but we still don't have a slope. So the next thing we have to do is find the slope of line ZC. Alright, so my slope is going to be, we're using 610 and 4, 3. So I get y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 gives me negative 7 over negative 2, which is positive 7/2. Now, this is my slope. Up above we did the perpendicular slope, but we don't want to be perpendicular here. We're more concerned with just this line. So we need just the slope of this line and one of the points on the line. So you could write this equation in 2 ways. You could use point C or point Z. So let's start with using point C. So I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, you could also write it with point Z using the same slope and point Z. Y minus 10 equals 7/2 times x minus 6. Now, this is actually the exact same equation. If we would solve for y to put in slope-intercept form, they would match perfectly. So either answer is acceptable here because it asked for your answer in point-slope form. So again, you really just have to analyze the problem. When it says median, I'm thinking midpoint, and then you have to find the slope. So if you understand what a median is, this is pretty simple. It's just tying it in with our algebra. Okay, now for the last one is an altitude. Now we're using the same coordinates just to kind of make us more comfortable and see the differences in my segments. Sorry, so let's plot point A, which is negative 1, 2, and H, which is 9, 4. Now I like again to sketch the triangle, give us a sense of what we're working with. Now ZC is an altitude, so again we're coming from Z. Now remember though, all we care about is making a 90. That's all we care about, is making a 90-degree angle. Okay, so the first thing we need is in point-slope form is a point. Now we don't care about midpoint here like we have in the past 2 examples because an altitude doesn't cut it in half. All we know is it makes 90. So my point here, I'm just going to use point Z, which is 610. Alright, so we have my point. Now here's the tricky part for altitudes. We make a 90, but what we are is we are perpendicular to AH. So we actually need the perpendicular slope to AH. Alright, so we want to find the slope of AH. So let's do that. The slope of AH is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is 2 over 10, which is 1/5. Now my altitude is going to be perpendicular to AH. So the perpendicular slope is, flip it, change the sign, negative 5 over 1 or just negative 5. Now with my point and my slope, write me a new equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, and that's the answer we're looking for. Now again, the biggest part is making sure you understand what each special segment does. You know an altitude makes 90, so you need to be looking for a slope that's 90 degrees. Alright, you know a median cuts in half, so you're looking to cut it in half. And in a perpendicular bisector, you know it does both, so you're looking to cut in half and make a 90. Alright, well that's all I got. See you later.